So, you're a business owner dedicated to the significant and sustainable growth of both you and your business. Welcome to the Add a Zero podcast.
Hi, Joel from My TrueNORTH. Welcome to the Add a Zero podcast, where we support conscientious business owners to grow, scale, and exit successfully. And today, I'm talking all around team. The eighth element of Add a Zero is called Recruit, Retain, Reward Superheroes. And one of the most common things I hear right now from clients old and new is their inability or struggle to be able to recruit and retain really good staff. There seems to be a real challenge, not just in one market, but across the entire platform right now with regards to being able to recruit and hire the right people, to find the right people out there and to be able to take them into the business successfully, and then to maintain them and to have a significant lifespan out of them, to create a career for them and for them not to just simply see it as a stepping stones to step into and off as and when they choose, to move around and to lose that longevity of service. So today is for those people looking to be able to recruit, retain, and how best to reward a growing team of superheroes. Now, doesn't matter where you are on your business growth trajectory, whether we're still talking about possibly taking on your first member of staff, or whether you're looking to be able to build a new business, grow a new department, and take on 30, 40, 50 staff at any one time. Doesn't really matter. The same principles apply, and it's about understanding as to what it is that we're trained to achieve. So today is all around taking on new people. Bearing in mind, you'll recognise from last week that I was talking about the importance of strategy and structure, and the importance of you moving from being the bottleneck in the business and being able to allocate and advocate to other people to do more in the business. And therefore, it's only logical that today we're talking about that team and devolution of your responsibilities to be able to pass that to other people within the business. So I guess my first question is, when was the last time you had an advert live telling the world that you're looking for new staff? Last week? Last month? Last quarter? Last year? Have you ever done it? One of the biggest challenges that we often find with businesses is they only tend to advertise when they've got a job available. Yes, you heard that right. One of the biggest challenges that we often find with business owners is that they only advertise when they have a vacancy available. And that is a challenge. I advertise regularly within my business. Regularly. Monthly, certainly bi-monthly, we'll put an ad out and we'll let people know that we are looking to take on new staff. Jay, why would you do that? Surely the whole purpose is you've got to have demand in order to, well, yes, there's always the chicken and the egg. But if we look at something that both Steve Jobs and Bill Gates have both collectively said in the past, a member of staff, your employees, are your greatest asset. An employee is an asset. Think about it logically. It might be that you're taking somebody on in order to be able to generate new business. It might be that you're taking on a sales role to be able to win some new business. It might be that you're taking on somebody to be able to help with operations, to be able to speed up the process. It might be that you're taking somebody on that's going to be a fee earner and front-facing and generating income for the business. Doesn't matter which role within the business. But one of the first things we need to acknowledge as the business owner is that in order for this salary to be generated, yes, it's going to come out of the business bank account, but predominantly it's going to be generated by the person that we're hiring. Let me explain. when I take on a sales role, when I take somebody on that's going to be generating income for the business, by the end of their probationary period, I will be expecting them to be generating at least 2 times their take-home income. Let's say that they're salaried at 25 or 26,000 a year as a basic. By the end of their probationary period, I'll be expecting them to be generating over £50,000 in revenue. More than enough to cover their salary and the additional costs to the business. And if they don't, the chances are their probationary period isn't going to end well. As they all say, hire slowly, fire fast. That gut reaction that says, have they got what it takes? Have I provided everything that they need in order for them to be successful? But ultimately, have they got what it takes? So understanding that an employee, regardless of which role they are within the business, and we can talk about front of house and back of house, we can talk about fee earning and potentially non-fee earning roles as we talk through this podcast. But ultimately, a good employee will at least cover their costs within the business, that they are an asset to the business and not a drain from the business. We've got to understand that hiring someone is an investment. It's not a cost. And that often comes from the mindset of the business owner, seeing them as a financial benefit to the business rather than a financial risk or challenge or cost to the business. Secondly, I want to be able to make sure that the world knows that we are a growing business, that we are regularly looking for new talents to be able to come in and work within the business, that I'll regularly receive CVs and covering letters from people out there looking for employment. And I'm looking for that next superstar. I'm looking for that next person that I look at the CV and a covering letter and subsequently have a phone call, and we can talk through the process in a minute. But I'm looking for the next person that's going to be a fee earning generator for my business. And the only way I can do that is by constantly looking at the markets to understand who's available and what's out there. Therefore, we regularly advertise for positions. We regularly advertise that we are hiring to understand the status of the markets, to understand who's out there and what's available. Because the right person brought into the business should be a quick financial cash generator that's going to cover their salary in month 2 or 3, depending on the sector or industry you're in and the level of competency that they come in with, the level of training required in order for them to be able to do so. But ultimately, I would expect them to be breaking even at their take-home within the first 3-4 months-ish. Hiring is a short-term decision. It's not a long-term decision. It should be, I've got enough in my kitty to be able to cover the first couple, maybe 3 months' salary. And by that time, I'll have made a really good assessment with regards to whether they have the capacity and the capability to be a cash generator, to be a financial investment for me and my business. So I'm going to have an advert out regularly, telling people that I'm looking to take people on. I'm regularly going to be looking at CVs and covering letters to determine who is my next hire. And then once I've got to that point, I can then start to think about a recruitment process and bringing them into the business on a trial, probationary periods to establish whether they're a good fit. The other thing, whilst I've already got a team, is I'm making some comparisons. I'm understanding as to what's currently out there and available compared to what I already have in my business. I'm looking at what my business currently needs and the future needs of the business, and I'm determining as to where are the risks and bottlenecks within my own business because of either a lack of talent or competency or capability or qualification, and how are we going to overcome those, either by upskilling and training my existing workforce or bringing people in as and when the business requires them to do so. So one of the things that we advocate in chapter 8 of the Add a Zero Establishing Basecamp book is the first 9 hires. I'm not talking about the first 9 paychecks. I'm talking about the first 9 roles within any business and where to be able to find that talent pool from. It might be that you hire one of position 1, but you end up hiring 3 in position 2 before you think about moving on to position 3. But we've looked at businesses of growth and scale, and we've identified the 9 recommended roles that we need to cover in order to be able to go from 0 to 7 figures. And our job is to be able to, 1, map out what that looks like, to be able to have a future organizational structural charts to determine as to what does the business currently need and what are the future human resource needs within the business. And therefore, to look in our current talent pool, the people working within our business right now, either internally or if we've outsourced, and then establish as to who's out there and what's available to map against that to determine as to, and when do I need to bring the next person in to be able to move to the next level. Once we've got our future organisational structural chart, I think it's on page 236 in chapter 8 on establishing Basecamp. Once we've got our future organisational structural chart and we've started to advertise to the market, we've started to receive some CVs, now it's a case of being able to take them through an interview process. And the simple fact is that if you interview in the same way as everybody else, then as far as somebody who's never met you before and doesn't know much about you and your business, they're going to start assuming that you are the same as everybody else. They're going to be making some comparisons between what they've currently got going on in their lives and what you have to offer. So the next step on being able to take on superheroes is to have a different interview process, to take them through a different process to the ones that they might expect you to do so. And again, in chapter 8, we talk a lot about our 5-step process for being able to recruit and retain superheroes, being able to do things differently in order that the new recruit or the prospect sees that we are different, understands that we are a different business with a different set of vision and values to the one that they're leaving, and as a result of that, that we are looking for something different, that they can bring something different to the party. I'm not interested in people looking for a 9-to-5 paycheck. I'm interested in people who are invested in us being able to achieve and work together to achieve our vision through our values. It's about being able to get them to buy into the story of the business and for them to understand the part not only that they play, but how they can contribute towards making that part of their story also. Being able to sell the sizzle and not necessarily just the sausage, which is why we rarely talk about the job description. We rarely talk about the role that they'll be playing. In our advert, we tend to talk more around the type of business that we are and where we're heading and the type of team that we're looking to be able to build. I hire an attitude, an aptitude, rather than qualification and experience. One could be learnt, the other one's a lot harder to teach. And therefore I'm looking for people who are hungry and interested in wanting to be part of a team that can deliver something, and then understanding as to where they best fit. As Jim Collins says in Good to Great, on which seat do they sit on the bus? So we have a completely different interview process. And then we offer employment. And again, from the first 100 days of taking them on, chapter 8 talks all the way through about the first 100 days and the importance of that in being able to build not only loyalty, but on assessing their abilities to be able to grow and evolve with the business. Pairing them up with a buddy, somebody within the business that they can bounce ideas off and learn from, being able to help and support and guide them through it, being able to set expectations at the first week, the first month, the first quarter, and before the end of probationary period, for them to have a good understanding about what does success look like in their role, setting them up for success, as opposed to holding them back or restricting them with job descriptions and that's not your role or you don't need to know that. And then eventually, how do you retain people? Well, study shows that it's never about the salary. Don't get me wrong, we all like to earn a good wage, but ironically, if you have other things in the business in place, salary is never the primary role or reason why somebody works for you and not somebody else. So again, in chapter 8, we talk all around how to be voted a super boss. The 11 things that you can do and put in place in your business to be seen and felt and heard as different. That salary isn't the primary driver. The purpose, the vision, the values, to be part of something bigger than self, and how we're able to sell that to our team that they are so involved and invested in it that the salary is a byproduct of what they do and not why they do. Trust me, applying the Recruit, Retain, Reward Superheroes framework is transformational for business. And we've seen it time and time and time again, both within my own business and with those with whom we serve. If that sounds of interest and you'd like to learn more, I'd love to have a conversation with you. So simply get in touch, drop us an email. You'll see the email address within the show notes. And I'd love to be able to share more about our Recruit, Retain, Reward Superheroes framework. God bless, take care, have a great week, and I look forward to speaking again next week. Bye-bye now.
That's all for this episode. As always, we really thank you for listening and welcome your comments, thoughts, and suggestions. So please do drop us a line by emailing podcast@mytruenorth.biz. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you're listening to this through. And tell your colleagues and business network all about who we are. You've been listening to the Add a Zero podcast presented by Jay Allen. Brought to you in association with My True North, the UK's leading ethical coaching company.